I always thought the worst pain a family could inflict was the pain of absence, parents who disappear, siblings who drift away, but I was wrong. The sharpest pain comes from those who stay, who smile across the dinner table, and who call you our rock while quietly chiseling away at everything you've built. That's the lesson I learned the day my parents emptied the savings account. I'd spent a decade growing, all to rescue my brother from yet another disaster of his own making, and that was also the day I finally understood that loyalty without boundaries is nothing but a leash. I'd been the planner, the responsible one, since childhood, the kid who balanced birthday cash in envelopes marked future, while my brother Luke burned through his allowance before lunchtime. When our friends bought video games, I bought savings bonds. When Luke blew off classes to chase thrills, I took AP courses and weekend shifts. It wasn't pride, it was survival. Our parents always assured me that discipline would pay off, that one day my caution would balance Luke's chaos. He'll find his footing, Mom would say, pressing $20 bills into his palm as though money were medicine. College was where our paths truly split. I commuted to the local community college while working 40 hours a week at a warehouse, stacking pallets until my wrists ached. Luke enrolled at an out-of-state university, full dorm package, meal plan, the works backed by loans he'd barely skimmed, co-signed by the same parents who called me, so independent. Every semester he bounced from major to major, business, philosophy, film. Every semester he threw bigger parties, racked up bigger credit card bills, and phoned home begging for just a little help. Home always obliged. By my 25th birthday, I had nearly 35 grand tucked away. First in a basic savings account, then laddered CDs, finally an index fund portfolio. I drove a dented Corolla but owned it outright. My plan, a modest down payment on a duplex, live in one unit, rent the other, snowball into property number 2. It was the slow, patient climb out of the generational paycheck-to-paycheck cycle, and I'd mapped every rung. Then, 3 weeks before closing on the duplex, the phone rang. Mom's voice trembled. Luke had been arrested, again. This time it wasn't campus vandalism or unpaid parking tickets. He'd been running a side hustle, selling concert tickets he never actually possessed. Fraud, the state called it. Bail was set high, legal fees, higher. And their retirement nest egg, already pilfered for prior rescues, was tapped out. I listened in silence as Mom cried, asked if I could come over. When I pulled into the driveway, Dad stood by the porch, shoulders slumped, eyes pleading. "We know you've saved," he said, refusing to meet my gaze. "We just need a bridge until we refinance the house." My pulse hammered. I told them I'd think, but first I needed dinner, shower, sleep. The next morning I drove to my bank to shift funds into the escrow account for the duplex, only to watch the teller's gentle smile collapse as she clicked through my file. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. The account was empty, drained overnight by joint holders. I'd forgotten still had authority, my parents. They'd signed those forms when I was 17, just in case. And they'd used that case, every last penny, to buy my brother's temporary freedom. I didn't yell, didn't beg. The betrayal was too big for noise. I thanked the teller, walked out, sat in my car, and felt a strange calm settle over the rage. A calm that whispered, leave. Not for a weekend, for good. Take what little remained. My car, my clothes, my resolve, and start where my last name meant nothing. That evening, I met my parents at the kitchen table. Mom's eyes were swollen. Dad's fingers drummed guilt across a coffee mug. I asked one question. Why didn't you even warn me? Dad said Luke might have fled if bail hadn't been instant. Mom said there wasn't time to discuss. That family emergency overrides protocol. That's when the leash snapped. I pushed my duplex contract toward them. Void now, deposit forfeited, and said Luke's emergency is no longer my lifestyle. Their protests blurred into static as I packed a suitcase. They promised repayment plans, swore the house refinance would fix this. I simply nodded, loaded my car, and drove 26 hours southwest to a city where rent was cheap, where warehouses always needed night managers, where anonymity tasted like breathing. The first months were brutal. I lived in a studio with peeling linoleum, rotated between double shifts, and cooked rice on a hot plate. But every paycheck, even the smallest, felt cleaner than the entire fortune that had disappeared from my old bank. I opened a new account. my name only, set up automatic transfers into an index fund, started climbing again. Back home, Luke's trial slogged on. My parents called weekly, voicemails oscillating between apology and accusation. You abandoned us when we needed you. I never answered. Boundaries are silent on purpose. They hold by staying shut. Letters arrived. Luke facing restitution. Mom needing emotional support. I sent one response a photocopy of my emptied statement, a post-it that read, "This was my life raft. I'm swimming without it, so can he?" Year 2 in the new city, promotions came. I moved into a one-bedroom, then pivoted into logistics consulting. My warehouse grind had made me fluent in efficiency metrics. Clients liked the calm, numbers-driven ex-worker who understood both spreadsheets and sweat. Income jumped. Savings rebounded. The duplex dream resurrected. This time in a hotter rental market. I closed with my own cash. No co-signers, no lingering joint accounts. Meanwhile, Luke took a plea. Community service, probation, massive fines. My parents drained their 401k to cover restitution. They listed the family home for sale. When the house hit the market, Mom called sobbing that they might end up renting. I took a deep breath, thanked her for letting me know, and wished her luck. Hanging up, I felt grief, yes, but also relief. They had chosen their path. I was choosing mine. 3 years after the bailout, I stood on the balcony of my duplex, keys for the rental unit, ready for new tenants, when an email pinged a real estate alert. The old family house, price slashed again. I imagined the echo in those halls, the empty bedroom where saving statements once lined my desk, and felt a pang. But nostalgia isn't a mortgage. You can't finance healing with guilt. I closed the alert, signed lease papers for my tenant, and walked downstairs to deliver welcome cookies baked in a kitchen I owned outright. Luke eventually reached out an email subject line, "I'm sorry." He wrote that probation had forced him to attend financial responsibility classes where they teach envelopes and budgets, the lessons I lived by at 9. He said he wished he'd listened sooner, that he understood if I never replied. I stared at the screen a long time. Then I typed, "I hope you're well." Nothing more. Accountability isn't a sibling's gift. It's a solo journey. Last month, I hit the 6-figure portfolio mark I'd once celebrated before it vanished. I didn't throw a party. I poured a cup of coffee, opened my ledger, and logged the milestone beside a simple mantra, earned twice, trusted once. Some nights, when fatigue from double shifts revisits my muscles like old ghosts, I almost miss the version of me who believed family would never cross certain lines. Almost. But then I remember the quiet power of walking away, of forging a life no one can liquidate without my consent, and the ghost retreats. People say leaving is running, that family bonds should withstand any storm, but storms don't justify sinking someone else's lifeboat. My parents took my savings to bail out my brother, and I left, steering into my own horizon, never once looking back, except to confirm the distance. Sometimes survival sounds like silence, sometimes love demands absence, and sometimes the truest family you'll ever protect is the future self who trusts you to keep the account keys out of anyone else's hands.